How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your weekly forecast of what the fuck is going on in the universe for November 12th through the 19th. It's not a lot happening this week, but we have three awesome things that are happening this week. But before I go into that, a couple weeks ago, I had a friend on my YouTube that helped me do my weekly forecast, Nate Craddock. Well, you guys all helped him and be inspired to start his own YouTube channel, so you guys should definitely go and check out his YouTube right now. It's Soul Friend Astrology. Definitely check him out. He's got a great Jupiter and Sagittarius video that you guys absolutely need to watch. And honestly, you guys are the best, so you guys should definitely go over his way, subscribe, let him know I sent you, let him know that you guys liked him from the video that I did with him. And yeah, welcome him in. So anyway, besides that, we have, honestly, it's kind of like a boring week until later on. However, starting on Monday today, we had the moon going through Capricorn. Yeah, it made a little conjunction to Pluto, and that was, really just about it. But like I was talking about last week, today was just really about laying down the foundation, getting things kind of, done, getting things kind of surface level understood is a good way to put it. While the moon's in Capricorn, it's kind of like wanting to detach from its emotional nature, wanting to kind of focus on what needs to get done, what needs to get established, what needs to get set into place. And this is a really big thing because for, just like last week, we had Jupiter going into Sagittarius, and this week we have Venus going direct, we have Mercury going retrograde, we have Mars going into Pisces. We have a lot of different changes going on. So this moon in Capricorn is really wanting us to kind of like, okay, time to detach from the emotional nature of things and really just kind of get some solid ground before we go into all this change. So that's going to be a really big deal today on Monday. However, as we go into Tuesday, we have the moon going into Aquarius, and as it enters into Aquarius, it's going to be squaring Venus and Uranus. And this is again where it's going to get a little bit tricky, where the moon in Aquarius is still of Saturn nature. It still wants to, get things done. It still wants to be disciplined. It still wants to, have some type of an agenda. However, while it's in Aquarius, it's really looking at different perspectives. It's looking at a bird's eye view. It's looking at how it can really detach. It's kind of like, the best way to put it is you don't really understand a whole situation until you take a couple steps back and look at it for its whole thing. That's kind of the whole moon in Aquarius deal. And as it squares Uranus, where Uranus is now at 29 degrees Aries, it's wanting to, jump up, move forward, do things really, really fast, kind of just get you all riled up for no reason. As the moon's in Aquarius and it squares, Uranus, right as it moves into Aquarius, this is going to be a big time to really go, all right, what do I have, set in stone? Where can I see things through a different perspective? And where can I see the problems coming from? And where can I see the opportunity for me to do something about it? That's going to be a really big thing, especially because the moon is also going to be squaring Venus as it goes into Capricorn. It'll technically be a little bit before it moves into Aquarius, but whatever. As the moon moves into it and it squares Venus, Venus is, she's retrograde in Libra. She's about to go direct this week. She's very, very slow. She's basically standing still, and it's been really boring. But as the moon's right there, moon's wanting to look at different opportunities. It's just kind of a great time to really look back and go, what did this Venus retrograde teach me? What did this Venus retrograde look like? What did I learn from this? Am I going to be able to apply what I learned from this in, moving forward? So this is going to be a really big thing. Although the moon will be in, Capricorn and Aquarius, it is going to be very mundane. It is going to be very, not necessarily, full of life like, when the moon goes into Aries later on this week. But it is going to be a really good time to really look at what has been happening and decide what you can do with it, decide what you can make of it. Moving forward, and that's on Tuesday, November 13th. On Wednesday, November 14th, we have Mercury squaring Neptune at 13 degrees. It won't hit it by the minute, and that's okay, honestly. I feel like a square to Neptune's a square to Neptune regardless by the minute. But Mercury begins its square to Neptune at 13 degrees, and it starts to slow down as it begins to station retrograde. And as Mercury's been in Sagittarius, things have been going a little bit fast. Things have been a little bit, they've been picking up pace pretty well. As it squares Neptune, this is when you're going to start to see, where maybe that miscommunication can kind of come from. This is where you're going to start to be able to notice, okay, this isn't making sense anymore. This is starting to be a little bit blurry. This is kind of confusing. This needs more clarity. This needs more outline rather than, you know, a blurry Neptune and Pisces and a very quick-oriented Mercury and Sagittarius. So as Mercury and Neptune square, this is going to be a big time to really go like, okay, what am I getting myself into in the form of, you know, like Mercury stuff, like your everyday thoughts, the way that you think, the way that you speak, where your mind's really going. You know, the biggest thing to ask yourself is, okay, where am I really not seeing clearly if you're not seeing anything clearly at all? But that's also Mercury and Neptune. There's going to be tricks involved. There's going to be something coming up that you didn't see regardless. So with Mercury squaring Neptune, just know that things are going to be a little bit blurry, things are going to be a little bit weird, but just go with it. Like, you know, it's kind of like when if you're driving through the fog, you don't just stop and wait for the fog to clear up. Like, you just keep driving, you just go a little bit slower. So that's going to be a big thing as we go into Wednesday. On Thursday, though, we have the moon going into Pisces, and we have Mars going into Pisces. Mars has been in Pisces for Mars has been in Aquarius for 7 months. 7 months. That is a long time. He entered Aquarius in like May, I think it was like 12th or 13th or something like that. He moved into there, hit 9 degrees, he retrograded, had a bunch of eclipse on top of him, then he went back into Capricorn and then moved forward through Aquarius. I don't even really count that little, you know, like 2 or 3 week period Mars was in Capricorn. That doesn't even count. Mars has been in Aquarius forever. Mars is all about our energy, our drive, what we're kind of doing. It's also what kind of frustrates us. It wants to sever, it wants to cut, it wants to bring problems to things. And while Mars has been in one sign, where that means he's been in one house or just one sign in your chart for 7 months, that's a lot of energy. And he's finally moving out. So this is going to be a big breath of fresh air, because while Mars is in a Saturn-ruled sign of Aquarius, it's very like, you know, got to get things done, got to look at things a certain way, got to be cold-hearted, got to be constricted, you know. It's kind of like having a Debbie Downer with a, you know, party pooper. As Mars goes into Pisces, though, where Pisces is, yeah, it's a watery sign, it's a Jupiter-ruled sign, it's very much like, I love using the term fog for Pisces. As Mars moves into Pisces, he is treading new ground, but where Mars wants to kind of like, you know, cut, he wants to see, he wants things to be lit up. Mars is going to have a new challenge of really moving forward in an area where he can't see all the way in front of him. He can only see so far in front of him. So when Mars goes into Pisces, the biggest thing is that you're really going to be wanting to focus on not relying on a path, not relying on a set of rules. This is about taking this is about going off the trail. This is about taking your own adventure. This is about going about things the way that you want to go about and the way that you see fit best at that moment. Mars is really exploring in Pisces. He's exploring how he feels. He's exploring how, you know, he wants to behave. He's exploring why he behaves the way that he does. So as Mars goes into Pisces, you're really going to start to feel yourself kind of go like, okay, it's going to be kind of getting out of our comfort zone. It's going to be kind of, you know, we've been having Mars in Aquarius for a long time now, so it is going to feel very different. And because Mars has been in Aquarius for so long, it's going to feel very uncomfortable, especially because this is Pisces, and Mars doesn't necessarily not have a problem with Pisces, but he's definitely not best suited for Pisces. So as Mars moves forward, start really looking at where you want to take your direction. Don't be afraid to go off the beaten path. Don't be afraid to do something different, but really act within that moment and really act, I hate saying this, but really act intuitively. Really come from your gut feeling. Really come from, you know, body, mind, soul, spirit, all combined. Come from that state of mind when it comes to how you're acting, how you're moving forward. And especially when it comes to anger and frustration and things not working, Mars in Pisces isn't about freaking out and getting angry. Mars in Pisces is about understanding that anger and really understanding, you know, where it can be best suited and where it can be best channeled into. So that is a big deal. Later on that night, the moon will then go into Pisces. So the whole Pisces energy is just kind of like coming out of left field all of a sudden, because I mean, Chiron's back in there, Neptune's there, Mars is there now, the moon's there. Like, where'd all that stuff come from? But as the moon goes into Pisces, this is when we're going to start feeling a little bit more, even though Pisces and all that Neptune stuff has a lot to do with fog, we have Mars now in Pisces. And Mars is cutting. Mars is making things, even though, you know, he doesn't have a trail to go on, he's making things very clear about where he goes. And as the moon goes into Pisces, this is going to be the best time to really, you know, channel that energy of like, hey, this is how I feel in this moment. This is what I'm realizing. This does make sense to me. Like, the moon in Pisces is about kind of, I like to use the word closure. I like to use the word, not so much of nostalgia, but the moon in Pisces brings up a lot of emotions and feelings that only like really you can understand. It's very subjective. And as the moon moves into Pisces and you start to really feel everything out, it is going to be squaring Mercury. It is going to be conjuncting Mars. This is going to be a really big time of shifting the way that we feel about things. This is going to be a really big time of kind of realizing more of where we stand on an emotional level and having more clarity with where we're kind of going and how to go about that way. So as the moon goes into Pisces, this is going to be a really big thing to look at. Moving on, though, on Friday, we have the moon conjuncting Neptune, which is another big deal. And as the moon conjuncts Neptune, this is going to be kind of like when all of that feeling things out kind of gets expanded in a big way. Things become very dualistic. Things become very, black or white. It could be a little bit confusing, but the biggest thing with the moon and Pisces being on top of Neptune, though, is just let it happen. Let it happen. Let yourself feel it out. Go through the motions. Once the moon goes into Aries by the end of this week, we'll be more clear, we'll be way more direct, things will make a lot more sense. But as the moon goes through Pisces, feel it out, go through it, experience what you're feeling, experience both sides of it. We're going into a really weird change of energy and direction. So, this would be a really good time to make sure you're in alignment with that you're in consensus with that you understand what you're getting yourself into. Then, on Friday, November 16th, Venus goes direct. This is very exciting because Venus has been in Libra. She's been in her home sign, but she's been bored out of her mind because she's been, stagnant. She hasn't been moving. So now that Venus is direct, she's flying forward in Libra. Things are going to start to feel a lot better in this terms of value, in the terms of connection, in the terms of bringing things together and making them beautiful. Venus in Libra is going to make this really, really enjoyable, and she's going to be coming up to not only her square with the node now that it's in Cancer, and Cancer Capricorn, I should say, and she's also going to be making another opposition to Uranus. So Venus still has a lot of stuff she's about to go through again, and Venus is getting really pumped up. She's getting really strong. She's becoming very healthy as she's in Libra. So when Venus goes direct, this is going to be a really good time to kind of go like, hey, this is how I feel about a certain situation. This is how I feel justified with this situation. This is what I feel I deserve. This is what I feel I'm worth. This is what I feel I want to create. This is what I want to bring beauty and life into. Venus in Libra, as she goes direct, is just going to feel, you're going to feel more connected to the things that make you a little bit more happier, especially because Venus has been retrograde in Scorpio, and she's just been retrograde. It hasn't been the easiest to connect to those type of things. So that is a really big deal. But moving on into Saturday, Mercury goes retrograde, squaring Neptune at 13 degrees. This is when we're going to have that kind of like, it's not going to be that exact moment of like, oh, whoa, like everything's crazy. I think as Mercury moves back and back and back and starts to conjunct Jupiter and the sun and goes back into Scorpio, things will be making a lot more sense. However, as Mercury does square Neptune and goes retrograde, this is going to be the time to like really mark on the calendars of like, all right, what do you need to rethink? What do you need to go over? What do you have to backtrack? What is getting lost in translation? That is, two big phrases I'd like to use for this Mercury retrograde. So that's happening on Saturday. It will be also squaring the moon. That's another big deal because the moon's going to be in Pisces, and I talk all about that in my Mercury retrograde video. If you guys haven't watched that, please check it out. And then on Sunday and Monday, we have the moon going into Aries, and the moon's going to go into Aries. It's going to square Saturn. This is when we're going to be like, time to do stuff. This is what we want to go for. This is what we want to accomplish. And it's going to be squaring Saturn, where Saturn and Capricorn's like, yeah, we need to do it, and we need to get all this shit together. So you may feel a little bit angry, you may feel a little bit frustrated, especially because now Aries, with all the moons in there, Mars is in Pisces. So it's going to be kind of like trying to put a square into like a circle. So it's going to feel kind of frustrating, but the biggest thing is just take a deep breath, figure it out, take one step at a time with everything that's going on. And then moving on into Monday, by the time we get back to this video next week, we have the sun conjuncting Jupiter beginning at 3 degrees, and that's about it. Like next week, we're going to have the sun-Jupiter conjunction. It's going to be Sagittarius season. We have the full moon in Gemini. Ton of stuff is happening next week. It's not big planetary stuff, like we're used to. It's more of like synodic cycle stuff. But, excuse me, that's this week. This week is, kind of going to help us level out with all the changes we had last week And going into this week, it's going to kind of like, okay, we're not done yet. We still have more changes, and we still have to be able to roll with those changes and be able to progress with them. So that's what I got for you guys. So thank you guys so much for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and, you know, doing whatever it is that you do. Love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for watching again. Don't forget to check out Nate's YouTube channel at Soul Friend Astrology, and I'll be seeing you guys next week.